do we have any blueprint and examples of a country that ran a massive revolution like we did?
What revolution did we run?
Well, maybe not like we did. Fine, I will give you that. You are the one championing for fees just now as a major source of revolution in South Africa. What major revolution across the world has happened, and the oppressor got dethroned, and the people who were oppressed are in power, and it's working. That's what I'm interested in knowing that. So maybe we can learn from that as well.
That's my problem. I don't know of any revolution like that in the world. That's why South Africa is a bit unique. But just to come and maybe add my 2 cents. The reason why I disagree with you on the previous question is that if our liberators, the liberation movement, had not changed from its core values from 1914, 1912, from 1912 as the oldest liberation movement in Africa, which had educated people. And the reason why it was formed is because those people had some education, because some of them were either chiefs or they were children of the chiefs. That's why they had education. So they were privileged in a way to get that education. And they were able to form this liberation movement so that they can liberate the Africans. In 1994, they take over power. In 1955, having promulgated the Freedom Charter. In 1994, they just go for free housing. Then the Freedom Charter, it says there shall be free education. Imagine if in 1994, they started free education where everybody had access to free education from what you call crash. Yes, preschool. From preschool, from crash. Right up to the first degree. Guys, people do not need anyone to build houses for them. They can build it themselves. Empower them. Education, don't make them zombies, man. Give them. I want to say something that we're educated.
So you agree with me?
I agree with you. I have a problem with you, the narrative on not showing on how they came about and not showing the weaknesses of the liberation movement. In trying to make this thing step by step, I don't know what no one knows what they're trying to do. I don't think they also know. Shame, they just don't know. They're just putting things they don't know what they're trying to do. So take Japan, for example, because Japanese were very good at this. Japan. Made sure. Hey, Nzamugurola. Hey, come on, just English.
It's Japan.
So Japan. So it's Japan.
You're doing so well.
Thank you.
Just rap whiteness with a matala.
You know this bloody coconut. So
Bruce, Japan.
Guys, we don't have time. Japan. So in Japan.
Carry on. Okay, yes.
So in Japan, guys, when they took over from whoever their oppressors were, here's what I know though, is that their plan was mainstream education, free education. And it was not saying that free education is going to be free forever. But they knew that they were in such a dire situation that we needed to make sure that everyone gets educated. You push education like nobody's business. Now you go to Japan now, it does not mean that education is still free, but they knew where they were at in terms of the National Democratic Revolution at that time. They had a plan. I don't know what our plan is. So they had a plan that, okay, education. We can suffer for now without houses, but push education. Every kid that finishes matric must make sure we get a tertiary education and first degree. So you liberate those people through education. You empower them through education. Because now that I'm educated, I was born in a home where I was raised by my grandmother. I went to a township school. We studied English, maths, and all this business economics in Zulu. A teacher would get up there and say, X plus X, we are going to put my back. So when I sit here with this coconut, I'm at, I can see what the national government has done. So it's good. But what I'm saying to you is that there's a lot and a majority that does not know anything about this.
Yeah.
And the failure of this government is not necessarily to make the middle class, the black, so-called black middle class that they've made.
Yeah.
It is to leave behind the majority.
Yeah.
So what we forget, Moleket Mbeki writes a book and he shows how the black middle class did not start with the ANC to create a black middle class. It started with Botha. When they saw that black people were becoming agitated and restless, they started creating a buffer. And that buffer, they call it the black middle class, to show the majority of black people what you could become.
Yeah, this is what you can become.
Exactly, this is what you can be, you know, it's your house nigga. You know,
The
in a way.
system works.
The system works, yeah. It's a house nigga kind of thing. So those people can go back to their own people and say, hey, if you work harder, if you can just push yourself,
Yeah.
if you can just study harder.
You'll be
Which is a
where I
farce
am.
on its own because the system doesn't allow you to do that.
But the ceiling is glass ceiling,
Yeah.
you see? They're not telling you that.
Yeah.
You're creating a system of a buffer system that tells you to begin public. You're not going to become. In my class, when I left Sweetwaters in Maritzburg, only 4 or 5 of us out of 80 students made it to tertiary institution. Where do you think the others went?
On the job.
So I didn't go to a model C school. I went to a township schools. I know the realities there. I know the majority of people who are left behind there. And those are the people that eventually, when they start seeing the reality, one day it's going to open up. One day. And I'm telling you, this country is not going to be able to withstand it. And I think that's what we have left behind.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to add on to that, let's talk about the notion of when something like that happens, or even the fact that it's been happening in service delivery protests throughout, South African history. But just quickly going to '94, I think also it's important to note how the notion of revolution and disruption was also on the table in the midst of that. So you've got one part of the ANC who's negotiating settlements and compromise. And then you have Chris Hani and various others within that space who are engaging, who in fact are walking out of negotiating from the table, who are questioning the narrative of why you're disbanding the MK, etc., etc. And so even there's this notion of we've got the possibility of disrupting the status quo. So now fast forward until now, I think that's if we're to answer your question, to go back to this idea of what it looks like now. I think that it's important to note that the ensuing systems of change are working against the people.
Yeah.
That voters when we stand in the lines for elections in May, it's just bullshit. For most part, and I think obviously people realize that and see that. And I want to my personal opinion is that I would want to invoke, and I would love to continue seeing a sense of disruption that it formulates and forms its way into many different spaces. And we mentioned Fees Must Fall in terms of disrupting that narrative and consistently disturbing the status quo, because I think that ultimately in South Africa we have a system that is it's working against itself for various reasons.
Yeah, in terms of how we can make sure that the revolution happens in our lifetime right now, I think we're sitting in a time where it's very urgent for us to be pushing a narrative of revolution and not depending on partisanship at all.
Yeah.
South Africa,
True,
my mate Shezi knows a lot
that.
more about this than me, that the South African political climate right now is sounding more and more American in terms of partisanship. It's like we've lost our way, sort of. So the young people of today who have this heritage of protest, of revolution and all of that, even though they learned it from people who apparently didn't do well with it, but it's a heritage nonetheless of that. And I think therefore, like Madala saying, that the glass ceiling has to be broken, the veil has to be torn. In the townships, Christianity has to be preached for our people in their own way. Things like that. Victims need to kind of be less and less speaking about revolution without the presence of the oppressors. And I'm saying those two words with reservation because the meaning of them can get us into a lot of
Are you talking about autonomous spaces?
I'm just saying that, okay, let's try and encourage white people to come into these spaces.
Yeah.
If there's white people that we know, that we hang out with, because I know all of us have white friends, Let's get them to come and speak about these things. Or if they can't come, let's have dinner conversations with them at Bry's, at whatever. We need to. We can't come here and be heated here. And when we leave this space here, we just kind of blend in and we're okay. It's like everything is fine until we have like a trigger moment where you get triggered and you come here and you speak about it. Secondly, I think that our people, especially the educated ones, regardless of where you studied, if you know some shit that's gonna that's gonna contribute some significant change in our narrative today, you gotta educate our people. People like Osli, the space that she's in professionally is such an opportunity for people who are not there to come in and go, hey, what can you add to our people here to know? You know what I mean? So I think more and more, and the guys had it right. It's not about the politicians anymore, and that feeling is starting to grow.
For sure.
It's starting to grow. It's not about them. We need to start ignoring them and their narrative and start speaking as the people. That what is happening here, because we do have a heritage of the people revolting. 1976, the students did it. Fees Must Fall took them 10 days, they did it. We've got all those markers of history to show us that when people stand up, something happens. And I always say, last point, I always say, one day the people will wake up and the leaders of those people will be left embarrassed. The time is coming, I'm telling you.
You know, I think for me, like, how this is translated, and I think probably because I am in under-resourced communities, you're dealing, and the reason why revolution will always feel like it's a middle-class type of thing, people who can still go home and eat, whether they're really in the space or not. You're dealing with people whose immediate need is being fed. And so what does that look like? And for me, the white people that want to be allies and the white people that are in privileged spaces, they need to come in here and make crap happen. They need to distribute their wealth and to go into those spaces, because that's what it looks like when you're actually trying to get people to change their minds. As long as the ANC is feeding the people in the locations, in the townships, there's no ways. I'm not going to let go of my bread for the sake of some educated person coming to me and talking to me about some revolution that must happen. And I understand that there's a possibility of it happening when people are really fed up. But until that time, I think now the ANC knows that it still rides on the wave of just people are hungry and people must be fed. We'll sell that dream until it whatever. But I really think for me, if people, and even us, we got to disrupt the spaces of success, how we view that everything about our whole existence has to change in order to empower the people that are under-resourced. And if we want to change the majority, we've got to be willing to give off our own resources.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Final thoughts, guys. We've got to wrap up. I think we've got about 2 minutes. So if you have any final thoughts, comments.
Question, do across the board racially, as a middle class space right now, as much as we've talked about this, are we aware of the costs of the message that we're talking about? Like,
Yeah, I'll start us off. I think Malusi said it so well 3 years ago. We're sitting in a conversation very much similar to this, just without the videos and stuff, the cameras. And Malusi asked us all a question: are you willing to die for this thing? And a lot of people come into these spaces and thinks it's just for shits and giggles. This is everyday lived experience for some of us, and that's why I do this shit.
Sure.
Let me tell you something about me. I'm back home where I come from. I'm one of those guys who made it out.
Yeah, same.
Okay, made it out. I hate that. I'm starting to rethink that whole bullshit. It's nonsense. I hate it. I hate the notion of myself being a buffer into the so-called middle class, black middle class. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I actually hate that I'm given the salary to live in a white social construct. It gives people a notion that there is some progress. There is no bloody progress. There is no progress. There is just definitely no progress. And for me to be, what I hate so much is that I'm being made as a banter so that people can achieve their own ulterior motive of this new rainbow nation, this country that's going forward, which is total bullshit, because I still have black ties. My so-called black middle class salary goes nowhere in giving me sustainable whether capital, whatever, for me to go forward. I'm just still in the same position as like anyone else who could be doing a normal job.
You know what the worst
It's
part?
bullshit.
You know what the worst part of that's like a perpetual cycle that we find ourselves in. We've got family members who are worse off and living in poverty. You know how guilty I feel. Like I'm like, I went to white schools. You know, we were the success in the family, but you look at your family like, what can my meager salary do to even make a difference?
So that's where education is important, to educate our people. And I keep saying that. Let's not talk maths and all of that, but not academic stuff. Just educating our people back again. I think listening to people like Comrade Biko, speaking about black consciousness and all of that, you know, bringing back that voice into black people that black is beautiful, black matters, black is important, black has a place in the society. And all of that, to read that sort of material, to bring back the voice of black people, that you are free to roam wherever you want to. If you want to build in the township, you build in the township and you enjoy it. Just because you're in the township doesn't mean that you are part of a socio-economic class.
Yeah.
You know, to embrace that. And I see that sort of stuff happening where I come from in Soweto. That as a Sowetan, you're proud of being a Sowetan. There's no, you're lower class because you're from Soweto. We don't have that. And to educate our people to go, I agree with Madala that like we sound like these black people who have made it. And when you go back home, they welcome you as such.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look at you, you know,
That's
and all of that. You date a white girl, it's like an achievement. And we need to break that stuff. We need to start breaking that stuff and helping our people think that, or think and know, understand, whatever, that look, black is still beautiful, man. It's not about white people being successful over you and all of that, because they still live. Whether we like it or they carrying on, and we the ones staying behind, trying to catch up to whatever that they're doing. Stop catching up. Start embracing who you are, love where you are, and know that you are free to even play on the other side of the fence, if you wanted to.
Any final thoughts, bro?
I think to circle around the question of us being the black middle class, I think we must be careful of being part of the problem. I find that myself, same thing, grew up in the township, my parents still live in the township, pay lots of black tax. Most of my salary goes towards paying black tax. And I have to hang out with white people, and they see me as a peer. Because I went to the same school as them, I speak like them, I drink the same beer as them. At the same places as them. And they see me as a peer. And when they go, yes, you know, I had to pay some car insurance and it was really expensive. I go, well, that's fantastic. Good for you, man. I had to buy my parents' car. I have to maintain my parents' car, put petrol in it. We don't have a car at the moment. So the next car that's going to get bought at home is going to be the car that I buy.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of it. I don't apologize. Don't apologize for it because I'm living my life. Just doing what I'm doing, but actually I put my head down and I do what I need to do. But I refuse to be a part of the problem of this lie of a black middle class, this lie of the educated blacks who are making it work in the current system. I refuse to be a part of that. Sorry.
And we're just in debt.
Fair enough. I didn't.
We're drowning in debt.
You know, I didn't benefit from the so-called new system, and my parents definitely have not benefited from this new system. So please tell me what exactly it's doing for us.
Yeah.
So that's what annoys me from the side of white people. I get annoyed when they see me as peers. You don't even know what that means.
Sure.
On the black side of things, I get annoyed at black people who push black middle class people away, and they go, oh no, you guys are on level 3 now, you know, sheepers. No, now you're up there. You are now not a part of us. Now you're not a part of us. I experience. I'm too old and too grumpy to give a shit. But if I enunciate things a certain way, fuck off.
Exactly.
Sorry, I did go to Model C school. I'm not going to apologize for it.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that I'm not black now. Fuck off. You don't know what that means, first of all. You can sit and have a conversation about what that means. But don't you dare separate me just because I've gone through this road, and that road.
Yeah.
Don't. Find someone else to talk to about that.
Cool. See?
I just think that we'll probably get to a space where we realize that our education system is still leaning towards whiteness. And so we'll get to a point in our lives where we disrupt even that space. We're going to get to a point in our lives where we as black people really acknowledge that we have to redefine that space. And by redefining it, we don't want white people to contribute towards building that system. And it's not because we're saying goodbye, go to wherever. We're only just saying that we need to find a space that is pro-black and not a space that takes out from us.
Yeah.
Because every system that we're in, we literally always having to adapt into the social norms of the Western, whatever. So for me, I really think that that's what it looks like. We're going to disrupt the whole shit. For now, people are still like, education. Even that is problematic. So, yeah.
Cool. I think we need to wrap this up. Yeah, thank you to every one of you guys for joining the conversation.
Sure.
I think the more we're doing this, we're getting better and better at it.
And you're going to have more women.
Yes,
So
we need more
excited
women.
for you guys. Yeah.
We need more women.
Not as quota.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
No, just because.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Look forward to the next one.
Yay.